The scandal returns to the Champions League.
Cualquiera de los que está acá presente vio que la pelota la tocó 2 veces Julián, levante la mano.
Yo te pregunto,
¿quién levanta la mano? Vamos. ¿Quién levanta la mano? ¿Quién levanta la mano? Bien, ¿quién tocó la pelota 2 veces Julián? No la levanta nadie. Listo, otra pregunta.
And, to no one's surprise, the main character is the same as always, Real Madrid.
Yo creo que ya lo habían detectado, porque cuando nos hemos dado cuenta nosotros que había esta duda, ya lo habían detectado desde el VAR. Nosotros no hemos, o por lo menos yo no me he dado cuenta de esto.
This time the victim is Atletico de Madrid, and the play that confirms it is an absolute disgrace to football. The penalty overturned against Julián Álvarez is an embarrassment. Even the commentators didn't know what to say.
A ver, ¿le pega con una o le pega con las dos?
Le pega con una.
Me parece que es con una nada más.
Sí.
This was not an error, nor was it a coincidence. It was yet another episode in the long list of referee favours that have turned the Champions League into a competition full of suspicions. It's not the first time, and judging by history, it won't be the last. Bayern Munich.
¡Voy del Bosque! ¡Esto era fuera de juego!
Juventus.
De Ramos, que dice puro balón. ¡Ah, caray! ¿Qué es este escándalo de Ramos?
Claro, y fíjate lo que eran las cosas. Claro, era expulsión. Sí, doble amarilla y a su casa.
And Liverpool.
La situación y la palanca de Sergio Ramos para mí, con mala leche, con mala intención lo de Ramos. Mira nada más el rictus de dolor y la tensión que venía sobre el egipcio.
Have all suffered from incomprehensible decisions, always favouring the same club. And the most ironic part, even Carlo Ancelotti, now Madrid's coach, was robbed when he was at Bayern Munich by the very refereeing standards that now benefit him.
Después hay las decisiones que nos han penalizado mucho, honestamente, porque la tarjeta de Arturo no era tarjeta y después los 2 goles de Cristiano eran fuera de juego, entonces claro que no estamos contentos de esto.
So the question is clear. How long will UEFA continue allowing these abuses? Has the Champions League become a tournament of privilege over merit? Today we will analyse with facts, data and history why Real Madrid is the most favoured club in the history of the competition. This is not theory, this is a fact. Chapter 1. Who is the real victim? It's not just in the Champions League. Real Madrid has grown accustomed to complaining, applying pressure, and bending the rules in its favour. Their recent attitude proves it. Vinicius Jr. complains about everything.
Se va a la calle y se va diciéndole a César, tú haces siempre lo mismo, haces siempre lo mismo.
Ancelotti protests in every press conference.
Sí, la ironía es la única manera después de este partido, porque creo que si digo lo que pienso del arbitraje, me caen muchos partidos. Entonces, lo que más me gusta en este momento es sentarme en el banquillo de Real Madrid. Entonces, para evitar suspensiones, no digo lo que pienso y utilizo un poco de ironía.
And to top it all off, the club has launched a media scandal against La Liga. What was once a team that won on the pitch has now become an institution that tries to impose itself off it. If referee decisions don't go their way, they make noise. If an opponent outplays them, they find excuses. And when they can't justify their failures, they start a media war against the very competition they play in. Instead of taking responsibility for their own mistakes, Real Madrid has chosen to blame the referees, La Liga, UEFA, and anyone who doesn't give them what they want. The strategy is clear. Play the victim and generate pressure to keep securing the same old advantages. The scandal they created to discredit La Liga is nothing short of embarrassing. It all started on February 6, 2025, after a 1-0 defeat against Espanyol, when Real Madrid sent a letter to the Royal Spanish Football Federation, RFEF, and the Higher Sports Council, CSD, claiming that the Spanish refereeing system was corrupt and biased. The club criticised the lack of fairness in refereeing decisions and demanded changes in the Technical Committee of Referees, CTAF. In response, Javier Tebas, president of La Liga, called Real Madrid a crybaby club.
Pero es que eso no le da derecho a decir cualquier cosa y decir que la competición está adulterada, no hay más, y que todo el mundo está en contra de ellos. Por lo tanto, no le da derecho a faltar respeto a la Liga a todos los clubes, ¿no?
And stated that As a Madridista himself, he was starting to feel embarrassed by the club's accusations. Tebas argued that Madrid was trying to manipulate public perception about the league's fairness, and that their criticism was part of a strategy to distract from their own internal issues. But why did this happen? Real Madrid believes it has been harmed by recent referee decisions that have negatively impacted their results in La Liga. The club has pointed out a series of incidents, such as the non-expulsion of an Espanyol player for a foul on Kylian Mbappe, the red card shown to Jude Bellingham in a match against Osasuna,
Ah, y una roja para Bellingham. Lo echó a Bellingham.
¿Qué le habrá dicho para que lo eche directamente?
which they consider unfair. These situations have led the club to question the impartiality of refereeing in the competition. There's no doubt about it, Real Madrid is currently going through one of the best periods in its history. Over the past 4 years, they have lifted 2 Champions League trophies, 3 Copa del Rey titles, 3 La Liga championships, and added international silverware like the Club World Cup and Super Cups. And if we talk about their squad, few teams in the world can match the sheer talent they possess across all positions. Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Modric, Tchouaméni, Rudiger, and Courtois make up one of the most formidable squads on the planet. With this level of dominance, with this level of talent, one would think Madrid would simply focus on proving their superiority on the pitch. But no, instead of concentrating on football, every season they find themselves embroiled in yet another controversy. If it's not Vinicius Jr. stirring up drama on and off the field, then it's Florentino Perez complaining about La Liga. If it's not a referee favouring them in the Champions League, then it's a full-fledged media war against any team that dares to challenge their reign. Real Madrid doesn't just want to win, they want everyone around them to bow down. And when that doesn't happen, they use their power and influence to shift the narrative in their favour. Chapter 2. A terrifying team, incomprehensible complaints. This is a team that has it all: trophies, world-class players, financial power and global recognition. And yet they still act as if they are the victims, as if the entire world is against them. Do they really need so many external favours when they are already one of the strongest teams in the world? Why can't they simply prove their greatness on the pitch without controversy or scandal? Let's break it down further. Their squad is elite in every department. If there's one thing Real Madrid isn't lacking, it's talent. They have at least 2 top-class players per position, allowing them to compete in every competition without suffering from fatigue. Goalkeeping. Courtois is a wall, one of the best goalkeepers in the world when fully fit, and even without him, they have a luxury backup in Andriy Lunin. The Ukrainian, often overlooked, practically carried them to last season's Champions League final with heroic performances. Defence. Maybe they need a few reinforcements, but they still have key pieces. Rudiger is a monster, an impenetrable force who commands respect from any striker. And then there's Raúl Asensio, a rising star. Quick, aggressive, with elite reading of the game and a warrior mentality reminiscent of peak Sergio Ramos. He's built for Madrid's DNA and looks set to lead their future backline. Midfield. Madrid has found the perfect balance between experience and youth. Fede Valverde is a machine, seemingly having 3 lungs and a cannon for a right foot. If anyone can take over from Kroos, it's him. Luka Modric, nearing 40, still runs like he's 25. Never tired, never backing down. Jude Bellingham is a beast in every aspect. Goals, passing, defensive work. He has it all, but the depth doesn't stop there. Arda Güler is pure talent, though he has been underutilised. Camavinga and Tchouaméni are 2 phenomenal midfielders when focused, capable of dominating the midfield against any team in the world. And if we talk about their attack, Real Madrid has the firepower to destroy any defence. Mbappe is lethal, a predator in the box. Vinicius, though inconsistent, is unstoppable when focused. Rodrigo remains one of the most underrated players in the squad. Endrick, despite his massive potential, isn't getting the trust he needs to explode onto the scene. With this squad, Real Madrid has no excuses. They have talent, depth, experience, and a perfect balance of youth and leadership. And yet, they are constantly embroiled in scandals, always looking for external advantages, and feeding the narrative that they are the victims when, in reality, everything is in their favour. They don't need referee favours. They don't need VAR decisions going their way. They have a team that, if properly managed, can dominate any opponent with ease. But history has shown us something. No matter how strong their squad is, refereeing decisions always tend to favour them. And the worst part, they turn a blind eye to it every single time. Chapter 3. This is how Madrid plays. Refereeing favours for Real Madrid are nothing new. Since the 1950s, the club has been involved in scandals that have shaped football history. Decades of controversial decisions, non-existent penalties, offside goals, and key calls have always seemed to go in their favour. If we go back in time, we find clear examples. In the 1957 European Cup final against Juventus, Madrid was awarded a penalty for a foul that happened outside the box. 3 years later in 1960 against Eintracht Frankfurt. The script repeated itself with another dubious penalty that tipped the balance in their favour. But refereeing errors haven't remained in the past. In the 1998 Champions League final against Juventus, Peđa Mihatovic's goal should have been ruled out for offside. And if we look at the last few decades, the list becomes even more scandalous. 2016 final, yet another against Atletico. Sergio Ramos scored from an offside position and also committed a handball inside the area that went unpunished. 2017 quarterfinals versus Bayern Munich. Cristiano Ronaldo scored a goal from an offside position and minutes later netted another, while clearly ahead of the last defender. Casemiro should have been sent off for a second yellow after diving in the box, but the referee forgave him. Meanwhile, Arturo Vidal was unfairly sent off in the 83rd minute, right when Bayern was at its best and on the verge of turning the tie around. 2017 final, Juan Cuadrado was wrongly sent off after Sergio Ramos simulated a foul. 2018 quarterfinals versus Juventus. In the 97th minute, a controversial penalty was given against the Italian side after Lucas Vazquez dramatically threw himself inside the box. Even Gianluigi Buffon lost his mind and was sent off. 2018, final versus Liverpool. The moment nobody forgets, Sergio Ramos deliberately injured Mohamed Salah with a judo-like move, forcing the Egyptian out of the final. These aren't isolated incidents. It's a pattern that always favours the same team. A team that has never faced consequences for these actions. And it doesn't stop there. The referee who officiated the Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid round of 16 second leg is the same official who was involved in Real Madrid versus Chelsea in the 2021 to 2022 quarter-finals. After losing the first leg 3-1, Chelsea managed to turn the tie around at the Bernabeu, going 3-0 up. But in the 78th minute, this Polish referee, after a VAR review, disallowed Marcos Alonso's goal for an alleged handball, even though the ball had deflected off his knee before making any contact with his arm. Eventually, a late Rodrigo goal forced extra time, where Benzema sealed Madrid's qualification with a 5-4 aggregate. Madrid went on to win that Champions League, but it wasn't the only time this referee helped them. In last season's semi-final second leg against Bayern Munich, Madrid had just completed a comeback with Joselu's goals when, in added time, Matthijs de Ligt scored what would have been the equaliser, sending the game into extra time. However, the linesman raised his flag for offside before the ball even went in, prompting the referee to blow his whistle immediately, nullifying the play. Since the whistle had already sounded before the play was completed, VAR was unable to intervene. And guess what? That referee owns a Real Madrid-themed bag.
Es muy grave. Es que es muy grave. No fuera porque estoy en el me lleva la plaza casi. Si llevara el de esto del Barça, esto es denunciable.
Now, this very same referee was in charge of the Atletico versus Real Madrid second leg, where the infamous disallowed goal against Julian Alvarez took place. If we analyse Real Madrid's history objectively, we are left with a serious question. How many titles would they truly have without these refereeing scandals? For decades, their so-called greatness has been tied to controversial decisions that have shaped the outcome of football's most prestigious competitions. We are not talking about an isolated error or a mere coincidence. This is a systematic pattern that has repeated itself generation after generation. From the European Cup in the 1950s to the recent Champions League editions, there is always a scandal favouring Madrid at decisive moments. And when things don't go their way, the script is always the same. They blame the referees, La Liga, UEFA, their rivals, anyone but themselves. Victimisation has become a recurring strategy to pressure and influence football governing bodies. Vinicius Jr. is the perfect example of this mentality. He constantly complains about the insults he himself provokes, and when someone responds to him, he plays the victim.
Eu só queria jogar futebol, só quero fazer de tudo pelo meu clube e pela minha família.
Let's be honest, Vinicius is the living embodiment of Real Madrid's attitude. If referees don't favour them, they claim there is a campaign against them. If they don't get dubious penalties, they demand fair treatment. If a team outplays them, they create media noise to plant doubt and shift the conversation away from their shortcomings. Chapter 4. It's happened again. Once again, Real Madrid finds itself at the centre of controversy in its most successful competition. Once again, they are surrounded by polemics, and once again, the victim is Atletico de Madrid. The internet has exploded with debates. Should Brahim Diaz's goal in the first leg have been disallowed for offside? At first glance, the answer seems clear. Brahim was not in an offside position when he struck the ball. But the controversy doesn't end there. Many have pointed out that while Brahim himself was onside, Vinicius Jr. was in an offside position. More importantly, his positioning may have obstructed Jan Oblak's vision, affecting his ability to react to the shot. This is where the rulebook comes in. According to the laws of the game, a player in an offside position can only be penalised if they actively interfere with play in one of the following ways: blocking an opponent's ability to play the ball by clearly obstructing their vision, competing for the ball, attempting to play the ball in a way that affects an opponent, performing an action that clearly impacts an opponent's ability to play the ball. The fourth rule is the one in question here. Did Vinicius influence the play? His positioning in Oblak's direct line of sight, right in the trajectory of the shot, is a crucial factor in determining whether the goal should have stood. What do you think? And if the first leg of the round of 16 was full of controversy, the second leg wasn't far behind. The decisive moment of the match came with the cancelled penalty for Atletico Madrid, a call that practically sealed their elimination. The reason? A double touch by Julian Alvarez during his penalty attempt. Technically, this is a correct application of the rule, yes, but how often have we seen a team knocked out of the Champions League because of such an improbable situation? This is what a double touch on a penalty looks like.
Mahrez does have something of a hit and miss record from the spot. Mahrez does it! 2-2! And the referee's... What is he doing here?
There was clearly a double touch here, but now let's compare it to the supposed double touch by Julian Alvarez. Alright, let's say this angle isn't enough to confirm whether there was actually a double touch or not. Let's check the final camera angle. So, if we watch the replay, Julian's slip might cause some confusion, but let's be honest, there are very few images or videos that clearly show a double touch when he strikes the ball. I mean, Mahrez's double touch is obvious. There's a clear change in the shot's trajectory, and it directly affects the goal. But in Julian's case, his shot doesn't even change direction. Still, if we watch both penalties at full speed, they look incredibly similar. But let's be real, neither the referees, nor Courtois, nor the commentators noticed anything strange in real time. The supposed double touch happened in a fraction of a second, barely perceptible, and had zero effect on the shot's trajectory. And yet, Atletico Madrid was eliminated from the Champions League because of this. The rule is clear, but the timing is controversial. This isn't about denying the rule. The laws of football state that a penalty kick must be struck in a single motion. If the taker touches the ball twice in a row without another player intervening, the play is invalid. The problem isn't the rule, the problem is when and how it was enforced. Chapter 5. The truth about this match. It's easy to blame Julian Alvarez's penalty as the reason for Atletico Madrid's elimination. It's the most controversial moment, the one that will be remembered, the perfect excuse to justify the defeat. But the reality is different. Cholo Simeone and his players were the ones responsible for not winning this match. They had everything in their favour: time, the better gameplay, more chances, greater control of the match. And yet they failed to capitalise on it. They dominated for long stretches, they had Real Madrid on the ropes, but they couldn't close out the tie. I mean, even Vinicius missed a penalty. Atletico took the lead in the very first minute. They were in control, yet somehow they played as if they were waiting for penalties. And guess what? That, beyond any referee decision, is simply unforgivable. If there was ever a chance for revenge, to finally turn the tables on Madrid after years of injustices, this was it. This wasn't just about advancing in the Champions League. This was about proving that Atletico Madrid had learned from their past failures. But they didn't. In the moment where character was needed most, they collapsed. Just like so many other times in recent history, they completely bottled a golden opportunity. Atletico Madrid had plenty of chances to finish off the tie. The clearest, Angel Correa's play in the 89th minute. He made a fantastic solo run, had Julian Alvarez wide open, yet decided to shoot himself instead of passing. Then, in the penalty shootout, Marcos Llorente had the chance to equalise, but he missed his shot. Yes, maybe Julian's penalty did have a slight double touch. It was subtle, but if we go by the strict rules, it was correctly ruled out. But this loss wasn't Julian's fault. In fact, he was one of Atletico's best players throughout the tie. The Argentine gave it his all. He pressed with intensity. He recovered key balls. He created opportunities. He never stopped looking for a goal. Atletico blew the perfect chance to eliminate Madrid. If there was ever a scenario where Atletico could eliminate Real Madrid, it was this one. They faced a Madrid side with no ideas, disconnected, and struggling to create danger. Madrid didn't have their usual Champions League magic. They couldn't find solutions and looked lost on the pitch. Even Vinicius missed a crucial penalty. Rodrigo was invisible. Mbappe couldn't find space. Bellingham had one of his worst performances. Madrid's midfield was outplayed in multiple stretches of the game. Madrid won, but this team has serious problems. The most concerning thing for Atletico isn't the loss itself, it's who they lost to. This Real Madrid under Carlo Ancelotti is in crisis. Sure, they keep getting results, but nothing is working for them. Their football is flat, their attack is predictable, their ideas are running out, and yet they keep escaping with wins. The Atletico match is the perfect example. They weren't better, they didn't dominate, they didn't impose their game. They won because Atletico let them win. Because Atletico didn't take their chances. Because Atletico didn't go for the kill. Because Atletico allowed a single refereeing decision to define their fate. Next challenge, Arsenal. Now, Madrid faces a completely different test. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, a team with a clear identity, a squad that just destroyed PSV, and a side that is fighting for the Premier League title. 52 goals scored, only 24 conceded, the best defensive record in England. Madrid has survived so far, but against Arsenal they won't be able to just scrape by. If they keep playing like this, their Champions League run could come to an end very soon. Will Ancelotti's Madrid pull off another miracle, or will they finally pay the price for their inconsistency?